Putin came out after that and said, are you going to pretend it didn't happen? And said that they would do everything they could to logistically support Iran and that it was wrong and the United States had gotten itself involved in an offensive war. I mean, essentially, it felt a lot like they were serving divorce papers to Donald Trump, which he's pretty used to by now. But I want to get to something I want to talk about that you saw probably in the thumbnail that I don't think anybody's talking about right now. The Home Office is pissed, guys. Vladimir Putin, little Pooty, is pissed, and I'm going to tell you why. And I think he's shopping around for a new president. And what does that mean? I don't think he's going to do anything that would risk a nuclear war with us, but Donald Trump has failed him. You have failed me, Anakin. This would be like dumb, diaper wearing Anakin. But in all seriousness, the reason why Donald Trump is where he is because of Vladimir Putin. The reason why, and we all know this, the right can say they're Russia hoax because they think that makes it sound different than the billions of contacts between Trump and people that work for Trump and everybody around him and the policies they take and everything else that have to do with that make Vladimir Putin happy. You may remember there's one thing that Trump needed to change in the 2016 Republican platform, and he did, and that was that we would protect Ukraine. Trump to Putin, he wants to get the old empire, the old boys back together. Ukraine is part of his. So his expectation was Donald Trump would get into office. Then it didn't happen that first time, failed. Biden stopped him because Biden actually, has a scrote, if you will, unlike Trump. And Donald Trump, again, came in and Putin assumed we're good. Now Trump will take care of me. But he hasn't, because Zelensky is Churchillian and put drones in trucks and humiliated Putin.
Just coming in showing Ukraine's bold drone strike on Russian aircraft. This is 2,800 miles from Ukraine's border. 2,800 miles. CNN's
$40,000 or $47,000. They created $8 billion in damage. That made him look stupid. And the only reason the war is still going on is Putin sees it. People fail him, right? He can never fail, much like Trump sees it. The difference is he sees Trump as failing him. Trump was supposed to have delivered Ukraine. And Trump, as we know, every time talks about it, paraded Zelensky in the Oval Office, and Zelensky made him look stupid, has tried to pull back from supporting him. And the little Russia supporters, little Putinites like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others have tried to stop Ukraine funding too. He said everything about Putin, that's a positive. He wanted Putin to the G7 to go back to being the G8, let Putin in. And they were like, no, we don't let homicidal dictators in, sorry, which maybe Trump thought they were talking about him. Which is ironic right now, by the way, because for this NATO summit, they're in The Hague, and I'm wondering if we could get some guys to put on some ICE outfits, anybody, and maybe just drive up, grab Trump, and get him to the court there. But I digress again. The big thing you should know that's going on is Iran is a close ally of Putin's, okay? And before we got involved and launched that attack, that pretty much was Trump, trying to show what a tough guy he was and enjoying attacking and feeling like that made him relevant and made him strong. Before all of that, you have to remember Putin came first, right? So Putin said, don't bomb Iran. Trump wasn't going to do anything. That's why one of the reasons he was a peace candidate, right? That was the excuse to stay out of Ukraine, to stay out of Iran, to stay out of these places. Do what Putin wants. His whole career, right, has just been basically spray tan and kissing the man-boobed horse riding guy's butt when not, doubling down on the Big Macs. But the problem is Iran is in the Kremlin club. They're buddies. We were told beforehand by Putin, don't do this. And by Putin's mini-me, you may remember there's that period of time, I think it was 2008 to 12, where Putin pretended they were still a constitutional democracy and let Medvedev take over. Well, he became prime minister. Medvedev became president, and then they didn't needed to hide it anymore, and Putin just became president for life, and Medvedev became like his mini-me. Well, Medvedev, like that dude is so expressionless, like he looks like he's got like a Jeff Bezos' wife Botox regime going on there. And yet he got pissed. When we attacked, he came out and said, Trump has started a new war.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is meeting Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Moscow. Putin has called the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites as groundless and says that Russia's position has been conveyed through diplomatic channels. He says Moscow is trying to help the Iranian people and hopes talks will find a way out of the crisis.
This is an absolutely unprovoked act of aggression against Iran with no basis and no justification whatsoever. We are making efforts to support the Iranian people. As you know, I have held phone conversations with the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of the United Arab Emirates, and the President of your country.
Okay. That was a purposeful shot across the bow. Basically, Putin came out after that and said, are you going to pretend it didn't happen? And said that they would do everything they could to logistically support Iran and that it was wrong and the United States had gotten itself involved in an offensive war and that this was because of Donald Trump. He and Medvedev, he let Medvedev do more of the talking. I mean, essentially, it felt a lot like they were serving divorce papers to Donald Trump, which he's pretty used to by now. That's something he does know how to do. I just hope they don't send them via ballistic missile. But in all seriousness, there are others we know that are around there. Tulsi Gabbard held the line on what Russia wanted. Remember once Hillary Clinton said, I think there's somebody up on that stage during the Democratic presidential debate that's being, it's becoming a sort of Padawan to stay on that whole thing for Russia. And in this case, of course, she was talking about Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi said there were no weapons in Iran, and whether there were or not didn't matter. She's took Bashar al-Assad's side, Russian ally, Iranian ally, supporting Iran there, has taken their side on Ukraine. She clearly is owned by them, but Trump shut her down this time and sidelined her from all reports, right? Ignored her. In addition to that, he hit back at Medvedev. So Trump suffers narcissistic injury. Trump will hit back at anybody who attacks him, but he's usually smart enough to know that Putin owns him and Putin can destroy him. But here he seems like he's starting to feel like he's a little tougher than he is. I don't know if he, Bibi is another criminal like himself. Did Bibi promise him something? I don't know. But there's a good chance that, that Bibi may have had some kind of an offering to say, it's worth it. Don't worry, Russia won't do anything about Iran. And in the end, he may be right. They may not do anything, but they're pissed. So here's Tulsi, from before. There's no evidence of Iran restarting its nuclear weapons program.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus.
Which was exactly Moscow's talking points, okay? So again, don't think about what side you're on here because they're all evil. Just think about like who the players are. And then, Trump after after that, apparently dressed down, according to numerous newspapers, and not dressed down in the way 40-something women, no, 20-something have accused him of, but he yelled at Gabbard in his office with the door open so people could hear about how she wasn't to criticize him publicly, she wasn't to question his judgment, and he has sidelined her since then. Well, now, with Putin's people attacking him constantly, came out and he said, quote, Putin needs to be careful. Wow. I mean, this is the president of the United States. We were once a very powerful country. There is a secret service and stuff like that, but Putin, fifth floor hotel balconies and polonium tea. Just saying, Trump feels like he wants to pretend, and he's even sort of, he's issued that's a threat. The New Republic saw that. They mentioned that as a veiled threat at Putin. So really what you need to know here is the tone is sort of, and it was the tone he said it in, their writing here was, not commander-in-chief, more mob boss who drank expired cough syrup, which is Trump very often. Now, Trump also, in that same press conference, lashed out and said, Iran and Israel don't know what the fuck they're doing. And, why is he so angry? I mean, I know he's an angry guy in general, but could it be that he's scared? Because he usually lashes out when he's frightened. Is he frightened? Is he frightened Putin may do something? They certainly can hurt our interests in a lot of the world and make his presidency that much more of a failure. And if you don't think they're not sitting there thinking they can still control things and install who they want, remember, one of the earliest things J.D. Vance got noticed for is when he said, why should any American care who wins in that war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine? He was completely cool with Russia winning, right? They've got Tucker Carlson, obviously. They've got Marge Taylor Greene. They got a whole bunch of people. Any of them could run for president, as scary as that is. Elon Musk, right? Remember, Elon Musk broke into the Treasury Department with big balls, who just left and for other work. He's 19 and clearly has a great resume and good name. And these other, incel children. And there were numerous reports about right after he broke into the Treasury Department. Wow, when they went in there, they got the passwords, and somehow Russian hackers within like 20 minutes had those passwords and were starting to try to break in. Elon Musk also knows his fate relies a lot upon Russia. So when you put all that together, you realize that Elon Musk going after Trump a couple weeks ago could have been Putin inspired. Maybe he's pissed. Maybe he's hearing Donny was thinking about bombing. Now you got, I think that's more speculative. I think the other signal is quite clear. Trump disobeyed his orders from the Kremlin and bombed Iran. The Kremlin is pissed and attacking him and trying to demean him, embarrass him, and make him look bad. When I say he's starting another war, that is very simply, guys, that's code in right-wing world, because it's not just he started another war. It's Trump ran on not starting any more wars. They are directly saying Trump betrayed and lied to you, to the far loony MAGA base. They're all far and loony and MAGA, but some of them are for war, some of them are against it. They're all the same crazy. So, Putin shopping for a new American mouthpiece. J.D. Vance would lick that guy's boots in no time. He'd have to first break the Ohio State trophy and fuck up while ordering donuts and go to Greenland and have people slam doors in his face. But when he got around to it, eventually he'd lick his boots. And when Putin threatens Trump, he's threatening Trump. When Trump tries to sound like he's threatening Putin back, he's being like the bad toddler he was and asking him to get spanked.